stories tonight in Y News. The Marcos administration assures commitment to reduce poverty and resolving inequality among Filipinos.
The Bureau of Corrections discloses plan to bury the remains of another batch of persons deprived of liberty next week.
The Department of Health confirms a more transmissible variant has been detected in the country.
And China records its highest number of daily COVID cases since the pandemic began.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Friday, November 25th, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Kat Dumaraos.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through UNTV News and Rescue social media channels. I am Giorna Pravado.
First in the news. The Marcos administration assures that part of the economic agenda of the government are poverty reduction and resolving inequality among Filipinos. This is amid the various challenges hounding the Philippines' economic recovery. Nel Maribohok reports.
The National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA reaffirmed the administration's commitment to significantly reduce poverty in the Philippines through the upcoming Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028. NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said the 8-point socio-economic agenda of the Marcos administration is designed to address the persisting multi-generational inequality and poverty among Filipino families.
The 8-point socio-economic agenda and the upcoming Philippine Development Plan, PDP 2023-2028, is intended to address the issues like that, and that is to accelerate poverty reduction while ensuring that the rapid growth that the plan envisages for the medium term will also be very inclusive.
The Secretary stressed, however, that the arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic temporarily halted this progress. According to World Bank report, the Philippines ranked 15th out of 63 countries in income inequality. The World Bank attributed the inequality to unequal opportunities, slow access to tertiary education among low-income households, and inequality in returns to college education. But according to Professor Dennis Coronacion, the prime issue that the current administration should quash are inflation and unemployment.
Lalo na yung inflation rate natin tumataas, parang hindi makontrol ng gobyerno. Yung ating unemployment rate tumataas din. Tapos yung halaga ng peso natin, kumpara sa dolyar, sa US dollar, humihina ang ating peso.
Coronacion added that the government should immediately implement interventions or programs to help the affected sector. Nel Maribohok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Bureau of Corrections has buried 60 cadavers of inmates from the New Bilibid prison today. Meanwhile, another 60 cadavers will also be buried next week. Dante Amenta has the story.
The Bureau of Corrections, or Bucor, disclosed they have to bury another batch of 60 cadavers of persons deprived of liberty or PDLs on Friday next week. The unclaimed corpses are of the inmates died from the New Bilibid Prison or NBP.
May I make mention po na kaya po maraming unclaimed, may mga dumadating pong relatives, hindi na po talaga kine-claim yung body, kinukuha na lang po yung death certificate.
Earlier this morning, Bucor Officer in Charge, Director General Gregorio Catapang Jr. led a burial of 60 cadavers who were also NBP inmates.
Presently po, out of the 176, bali 70 na nga po yung nailibing namin. 106 na lang po yung nandun sa Eastern, 60 po yung ililibing namin. Yung matitira po is more than 40 po. Yun po, kung sakali pong may dumating na relatives, hingi po kami ng consent na kung pwede pong ipa-autopsy.
Meanwhile, during the burial, only 2 relatives were present, but just to witness the burial and not to claim the remains.
Yung hiling ko lang na mapagbigyan na may sama siya sa first batch. Hindi naman talaga siya naka-schedule ibigay ngayon eh. Nakiusap lang ako kasi hindi namin siya maklaim. Wala kasi kaming pera.
The Bucor admitted it has been their long-time problem that no family members or loved ones claimed the deceased PDLs. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, on Friday, November 25th, urges the public to become advocates of their anti-drug program, Buhay Ingatan, Drogay Ayawan, or BIDA. According to DILG Secretary Benjamin Abalos Jr., this program aims to put an end to the illegal drugs problem in the country. In a statement, Abalos encouraged the public to join the grand launch of the BIDA program and to work together and be the prime movers of their campaign. The secretary stressed the bright future of the youth that is free from illegal drugs is in the hands of the Filipino people. The BIDA program is a nationwide anti-illegal drugs advocacy program that involves all local government units, drug enforcement agencies, including the Philippine National Police, Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, National Bureau of Investigation, and other key sectors of society. This focuses on drug demand reduction and rehabilitation in the communities. Abalos mentioned that the illegal drug problem has continued to destroy relationships, families, and the future of the youth. He added it is high time for all sectors of society to make a stand and do their part through the BIDA program. The anti-drugs campaign under the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. starts a different approach, working within the framework of the law and with respect for human rights.
The bicameral conference committee, composed of several members of the Senate and lawmakers from the House of Representatives, began deliberations on the 2023 proposed national budget. A lawmaker expects the bill will be ratified on December 25th. Eileen Ceruda will tell us why.
Lawmakers began working on the General Appropriations Bill, or the 2023 proposed national budget, earlier than usual. According to Marikina Representative Stella Kimbo, this pushed lawmakers to approve the said budget at an earlier date.
So usually nagiging batas ito before New Year. Pero this year, dahil maaga nga tayo nag-umpisa ng trabaho, ang aspiration is sana before Christmas.
The bicameral conference committee convened on Friday to reconcile disagreeing provisions of the proposed 5.268 trillion peso national budget. Several programs in need of proper funding include the increased social pension for senior citizens, the Department of Education's Special Education Program, and the Transportation Department's Libreng Sakay program. Lawmakers are also reviewing to allocate funds for typhoon victims and providing benefits and allowance for health workers. The Senate and the lower chamber of Congress also need to reconcile provisions regarding confidential and intelligence funds, or CIF, of various government agencies. According to Senator Juan Edgardo Sonny Angara, the Senate Committee on Finance Chairman, the Senate was able to realign several CIF funds.
Yes, dahil nagsabi na si Vice Chair Hontiveros na sana manatili yung amendment po ng Senado na nag-realign tayo ng ilang daang milyong pondo mula sa intelligence fund ng iba't ibang ahensya na nilagay po, hindi naman natin tinanggalan ng pondo yung ahensya, kundi nilagay lang natin po sa kanilang yung tinatawag na MOOE o yung maintenance and other operating expenses.
The Senate's version of the 2023 proposed national budget has realigned funds of more than 215 billion pesos, while the House version has 77 billion peso realigned budget. Representative Kimbo expressed confidence that the two chambers of Congress will be able to finish the reconciled version of the bill on schedule. She estimated that its ratification will be set on or before December 25.
Sa tingin ko naman, mabilis na makaka-agree ang House at saka ang Senado dahil meron tayo for the first time in-adopt natin ang medium-term fiscal framework na ito ang naglalaman ng 8-point socio-economic agenda ng ating Pangulo.
Meanwhile, the Bicameral Conference Committee will reconvene to continue discussing the proposed national budget next week. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for our news abroad, due to COVID-19 outbreaks in China, including major cities such as Beijing and Guangzhou, China has now recorded its highest number of daily COVID cases since the pandemic began. 31,527 cases were recorded compared to the peak number of cases in April, which was 28,000, with an official death count of 5,200. These numbers seem insignificant for a country with 1.4 billion people. However, China is implementing a zero COVID policy where the Chinese government enforced strict lockdowns. With the surge in Beijing, as well as some reported deaths due to COVID-19, some shops, schools, and restaurants in the country's capital are now closed. Even with strict measures, COVID-19 vaccination levels are lower than in other developed countries, and only 50% of people over 80 has had their initial vaccine. China has also refused to import vaccines such as Comirnaty and Moderna, even with evidence that its homemade vaccine have been proven not as effective. Chinese President Xi Jinping states that the zero COVID policy and the strict measures are important to protect the elderly population. Despite the fall in emissions and improvement in air quality, a report from the European Union's Environment Watchdog reveals data that showed a slight rise in early deaths compared to previous years in the 27-member bloc. Marvi Delfin explains why live. Yes, Marvi?
The European Environment Agency, or EEA's figures released Thursday showed that at least 238,000 premature deaths occurred in 2020 due to exposure to levels of fine particulate matter that breached the World Health Organization's guidelines. In EEA's analysis, it was reported that at least 96% of the EU's urban population was exposed to concentrations of fine particles above 5 micrograms per cubic meter. Fine particulate matter, or PM2.5, is a term for the byproduct of car exhaust or coal-fired power plants. The size of the pollutants allow them to travel deep into the respiratory tract, exacerbating the risk of asthma, bronchitis, and other lung diseases, as well as cardiovascular problems. While there was a significant amount of premature deaths in 2020, the EEA notes that from 2005 to 2020, the number of early deaths from exposure to PM2.5 fell by 45% in the EU. If this trend continues, the EU hopes to achieve the Zero Pollution Action Plan target of a 55% reduction in premature deaths by 2030. And so the EEA highlights that further efforts are required to meet the zero pollution vision for 2050 of delivering a toxic-free environment. Back in October, the European Commission proposed tighter thresholds for air pollution, which includes provisions to claim compensation for health damage in case of violating air quality standards. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Marvi Delfin, reporting live from Australia. We'll share more global stories with you later.
The weather agency of the country has planned to remove from their list of names of tropical cyclones that severely affected the country. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Agaton, Florita, Carding, and Paeng. These are the tropical cyclones that leave remarks in minds of the Filipinos due to the damages they caused in the country. All of them recorded billions of pesos in damage to agriculture and infrastructure, and that is why they are considered as candidates for the decommissioning of names or to be erased in the list of tropical cyclones of Pagasa.
So meron siyang at least 300 na casualties, so 300 kataong patay, or meron siyang at least 1 billion na total damage.
Pag-asa said names like Yolanda and Ondoy were already removed in their list of names. This is to avoid possible confusion to the public that may perceive the same tropical cyclone is coming back. Pag-asa has 4 sets of tropical cyclone names, so each set will be reused every 4 years.
Hindi na siya magagamit ulit, so matitigil na yung paggamit ng pangalan na yun. So nagiging parang trademark ng impact ng bagyo na yun.
Pag-asa clarifies that the name of a tropical cyclone has nothing to do with its strength or movement.
So nagkakataon lang na napapalitan natin ng pangalan ng tao, pero wala siyang association kung ito man lalaki o babae, kasi ngayon mga kababayan natin, pag sinabi daw babae yung pangalan ng bagyo, pabago-bago na direction, pabago-bago na isip. So kung pag lalaki naman daw ang pangalan, masyadong malakas. So wala pong kinalaman ng pangalan ng bagyo sa kanyang magiging karakteristik.
There are around 19 to 20 tropical cyclones that enter the Philippine area of responsibility every year. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Quezon City local government, with the task force Sampaguita, launched the first ever citywide reach-out operation for street children, mendicants, and indigenous people across the city. Bernadette Tinoy tells us why.
In collaboration with Task Force Sampaguita, various agencies and volunteers, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte launched its first ever citywide reach-out operations.
So itong Task Force Disiplina ay binuo po natin para po sagipin ang mga kabataang ito, mag-provide ng intervention sa kanilang mga pamilya para hindi na maulit pa na sila ay malagay sa alanganing sitwasyon sa kalagitnaan ng mga lansangan natin.
Belmonte said she conducted the operations after experiencing a time when she went to a restaurant and tons of children selling sampaguita approached her.
Binuo ko lang ito a few months ago dahil sa personal experience ko na nung lumabas ako sa isang restaurant, napakaraming batang dumumog sa akin at nagbebenta sa akin ng sampaguita.
Meanwhile, other partners shared how they regularly conduct the reach-out operations.
Yung mga parent effectiveness seminar, no, ginagather namin sila sa isang activity center, no? Pinapakain, pinababalik, parang may module, tinuturuan sila, no, kung ano yung mga dapat mangyari sa buhay nila, no, at hindi sila dapat na lagi nasa lansangan.
Yun ay ating minomonitor natin kung meron tayong mga children and families, including indigenous people, in street situation. Meron tayong kinakandak sa kanila na at pinibigay na mga home life services when it comes na ma-turn over sila doon sa ating temporary shelter.
Those who were rescued were not satisfied on Task Force Sampaguita's implementation of the rescue operation.
Nabisi talaga ako. Sabi ko, lahat sasabihin ko kasi kagabi, sinihuli nila kami. Sabi, si Joy Belmonte daw, mamibigay ng ayuda. Kaya sumakay kami sa kanila. Natulog ka kasi sa kalye. Sabi ko, kaya ako natulog sa kalye kasi mahirap mga panang bahay.
Bernadette Tino, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Health, or DOH, confirms that there is more transmissible variant has been detected in the country. In a media forum today, November 25, the DOH has confirmed that Omicron subvariant BQ1 has been detected in the Philippines. This variant is said to be more transmissible than the other variants.
What we know so far from this BQ.1 and BQ1.1 would be that it is more transmissible and also it is highly immune evasive compared to the other subvariants of Omicron.
In the latest genome sequencing, the department has detected 14 BQ1 cases from October 28 to November 18, 2022. DOH says the mutation of the virus is part of the life cycle, especially that there is still more unvaccinated people.
Ang kailangan natin laging tatandaan, these variants this is part of the cycle of the virus. No, the virus would continuously mutate because it is part of their life cycle. As long as there are hosts, which are humans, katulad natin, maraming hindi bakunado, mas nagkakaroon ng chance na mag-mutate ang ating mga virus. So, these sub-variants ng Omicron ay naandito na po.
Currently, the country has 4,030,572 total cases with 17,945 active cases. The department continues to encourage people to get vaccinated and follow minimum public health standards.
As climate change rapidly increases, Canada introduced their national climate strategy in efforts to protect communities from extreme weather. Cherise Langbowen details why live. Cherise?
The strategy, which was published on Thursday, comprises of federal funding worth about 1.6 billion Canadian dollars to support communities which suffer from losses due to such extreme weather events. According to the government, by 2030, Canada is expected to face a yearly average of 15.4 billion Canadian dollars of losses, to which they aim to reduce. Canada's goal for this strategy is to achieve a more climate-resilient nation by developing better transport and infrastructure, healthier communities, enhanced and protected environments, and a more climate-resilient economy and workers. Stephen Guilbeault, Canada's federal environment minister, expressed that the nation must adapt to the climate changes that they will soon experience, and not only reducing the emissions they produce. The emissions database for global atmospheric research revealed that Canada is the fourth largest oil producer in the world. It is also the second highest carbon emitter out of the group of 20 major economies based on per capita. Over 2 years was spent to formulate a strategy, but the Canadian Climate Institute says it requires more specifications about the goals which the strategy aims to achieve. Kath?
Thank you, Cherise Langbowen, for that report live from Japan. Reformist opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim was appointed as the new Prime Minister of Malaysia on Thursday after post-election deadlock and decades of waiting. Ruth Bahe will give us the details live. Yes, Ruth?
Yes, Kath, after 5 days of uncertainty, the 75-year-old Anwar Ibrahim was appointed the 10th Prime Minister of Malaysia at the palace on Thursday, November 24, ending his 25 years of trying for the position that saw him imprisoned twice. In the elections held on Saturday, his Pakatan Harapan coalition gained 82 seats, while Mahayudin's Perikatan National Group secured 73. Neither candidates received a majority of 112 to create a government, but King Al-Sultan Abdullah, the country's constitutional monarch, appointed Anwar after consulting with several lawmakers. Anwar has now succeeded, but in under extremely difficult circumstances, especially the economy is slowing and the country is divided after a tight election against Mahayudin's mostly ethnic Malay-Muslim alliance. However, he vowed to eliminate corruption and to focus on the economy first, to revive the welfare of the people, especially the poor and marginalized, while foregoing his income as Prime Minister. A fixed-term Parliament Act and a 10-year limit on Prime Minister's terms are two further policies he wants to implement. The news was welcomed by the markets on Thursday as Malaysian stocks rose to their highest level in more than 2 years, and the ringgit experienced its best day since 2016. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Ruth Bahe, for that report live from Vietnam. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. Senator Lauren Legarda has urged the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, and local government units, or LGUs, to collaborate to update geohazard and multi-hazard maps. This is to avoid the loss of lives and properties in times of disasters. According to Legarda, the funding for this collaboration may be obtained from the 24 billion peso budget of DENR for 2023. In a statement, the senator emphasized that if LGUs had the knowledge of the geohazard map, including the multi-risk and multi-hazard, they will not deflect the blame by claiming they were not sufficiently informed or warned early enough by Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration or PAG-ASA during calamities. The maps has already provided by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources or DENR to the Department of Science and Technology or DOST GeoRisk Philippines. It has been distributed, but it still needs further studies to improve communications and capacity building programs. Senator Legarda also stressed the need for DOST, DENR, Department of Agriculture, and Department of Public Works and Highways to educate the LGU on the risks of climate change and multi-hazard assessments, for this would mean saving lives.
National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA endorsed an executive order which aims to boost electrical vehicles industry in the country. JP Nunez tells us why.
Public electric tricycle drivers in a terminal in Quezon City described their struggle of having one charging station for more than 30 units of e-trike. According to them, they spend around 4 hours to fully charge a single unit that can only travel for up to 3 rounds in their route, which is less than the time they spend for charging. With this struggle, e-trike operators and drivers calls on the government to implement a program that will build more charging stations for e-vehicles, especially this time that prices of petroleum products soars high.
Kagaya niyan, low-bat. Charge mo 4 na oras. Anong oras ka papabiyahe? Gabi na. Ala na pasahero. 30 piraso kami. 8 lang yung saksakan. Pero kung kalahati siguro, mga 15 piraso, maaari, hindi ka maghihintay ng doble-dobleng oras. Mas mainam kung may another charging station.
Katulad dito sa amin, yung e-trike namin, sobrang tagal ng charging niya. Almost 4 hours po yan. So sana yung mga lalabas siguro, bukod sa madaming charging station, fast charger din sana.
The National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA endorsed an executive order to President Marcos to cut the tariff rate of e-vehicles to 0. According to NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan, this would boost the electric vehicle industry in the country. They also consider of building more charging stations once the market for electric vehicles expanded in the country.
We hope that by opening up the market for more EVs, then this subsidiary auxiliary services will develop rapidly. Of course, we have also lowered the tariff for components and parts, which will include the batteries, and so that will help also the adoption and spread of these EVs.
Meanwhile, to Greenpeace, an environment protection advocate group, the promotion of using e-vehicles is a welcome development as it will transition our mode of transportation into vehicles which are not using crude oil that mostly contribute to air pollution. However, they emphasize that the government should also consider of changing our energy system by considering the use of renewable sources of energy.
Kaakibat nung pag-promote ng electric vehicles, yung pag-transform din ng ating energy system. Kasi kung isasaksak natin yung ating mga EVs, tapos ang nagsusupply naman ng electricity ay galing din sa dirty energy katulad ng coal, madidefeat din yung purpose natin, no?
JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Arkasang Bahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity.
Good day. I'm Brother Eli Soriano of the members of the Church of God International. I want to invite you to join us in a minute of prayer every day to pray for humanity and the whole world as we go through these perilous times. While health safety measures like washing of hands and strengthening of our immune systems may help us through this horrible predicament. There is still no precaution or cure more powerful than God's mighty intervention. And we need His intervention now more than ever. It doesn't matter what religion you are in or what denomination you belong. This is an invitation for all the people around the world who cares for the future of their family, friends, loved ones, and humanity as a whole. Everybody is welcome to pray with us. For more details, you can check out the description box below. Thank you very much, and I hope to hear from you soon. May God bless you.
Before we close, we will leave you with the word, giving glory to God from the book of Romans chapter 14 verse 19. It says, "Let us therefore follow after the things which make for peace, and things wherewith one may edify another." And those are the reasons behind the news, November 25th, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Giona Privado.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am Kat Maraos. We serve the people, we give glory to God.